Detective Samuel Kane woke up with a sharp sting of cold metal against his cheek. The acrid scent of blood hung thick in the air. His head throbbed like a relentless drumbeat. His vision was blurry, and as he struggled to push himself up, he felt the weight of someone heavy in the room with him. What happened here? The victim's body sprawled out on the cold concrete floor. A knife protruded from its chest, blood pooling around it. Alan Brooks, a powerful local politician. His death wasn't just another crime. It was a powder keg ready to explode, a city teetering on the edge of scandal and chaos. But there was something worse. Kane's fingerprints were on the murder weapon. He felt his throat tighten. What did I do? The last 24 hours were a blur. He couldn't remember anything. Who had done this to him? His badge gleamed faintly in the dim light of the decrepit warehouse. A cruel reminder of his duty. Kane's mind raced. What was he doing here? Why couldn't he remember? He needed answers. Fast. Blood spatter patterns told a story of a violent struggle. The angle of the blood was wrong. The knife's position didn't add up. Something wasn't right. Why would someone use a glove that didn't fit his hand? Kane whispered to himself, feeling the weight of every unanswered question. His eyes locked on a faint smear of blood near the doorway. A discarded glove lay there, too large for his hand. A clue. Then his eyes flicked to the phone on the ground. It buzzed with a chilling message. 12 hours left. Clean up your mess. Who was this message meant for? Kane's hand shook as he stuffed the phone into his jacket. A slow dread began to gnaw at him. What mess were they talking about? As he turned his gaze back to the room, his mind flashed, desperate for clarity. The warehouse loomed around him like a forgotten relic. Shadows clung to rusted beams, and broken windows let in only the faintest light. The air reeked of mildew and blood. The victim's glassy, lifeless eyes stared at nothing, reflecting the faint flicker of a broken fluorescent light. His reflection appeared in a nearby puddle, a gaunt face, streaked with grime, blood, and confusion. His fingers trembled as he touched his temple. A sticky warmth coated his fingertips. Head trauma. His mind swirled. Who had done this to him? He blinked hard. Why couldn't he remember anything? Then a sound broke through his thoughts. Footsteps. A shadow moved across the far wall, and Kane ducked behind a stack of crates, holding his breath. The figure was dressed in black, face obscured by a mask, crouched over the body with disturbing familiarity. Kane's phone buzzed again. The figure froze. Kane's heart pounded. He bolted, running through the darkened warehouse. His feet slammed against the cold concrete floor. He pushed through the rear exit, the chill of the night air slapping his skin as he scrambled to his car. What had just happened? His phone buzzed once more. A new message. "You can't run from the truth, detective." His stomach churned. He needed answers. Kane's frantic search led him to an old storage locker under his name. Inside was a burner phone, cash, and a file filled with photos of Alan Brooks with high-profile figures. Scribbled notes pointed to blackmail, corruption, and conspiracy. But the worst discovery was a voice recording. His own voice. "Brooks knows too much. If he talks, we're all finished." The realization hit him hard. Had he been involved? Was he part of the conspiracy? He needed to find out. Fast. His investigation led him to Dr. Elise Harper, a forensic psychologist who specialized in memory recovery. Her office felt like a sterile prison. The cold white walls made everything feel detached from reality. Kane felt like a stranger in his own skin, drowning in confusion. "Just relax," Dr. Harper's soft voice cut through the fog. "I'm here to help." Kane nodded. Every instinct screamed at him to leave, to forget all of this, but he couldn't. He needed answers. Through hypnotherapy, fragmented memories began to surface. A clandestine meeting in a dimly lit bar. An argument with Brooks. The unmistakable feeling of being followed. But with each new flash, the memories slipped further from his grasp. Then, in one session, a memory surfaced that sent chills down his spine. He remembered Brooks, his voice sharp with anger, accusing him of something. The blow from behind, someone striking him. The face of his assailant was obscured, but their voice was familiar. Too familiar. Who was it? Meanwhile, Kane's partner, Detective Laura Grayson, remained supportive throughout the investigation. Her reassurances, though comforting, felt strangely hollow. There was something in her eyes that Kane couldn't quite place. Could she be involved in this mess? As the case gained attention, Kane's face was plastered across the headlines. Some painted him as a fallen hero, others as a scapegoat, but all of them placed the weight of the scandal squarely on his shoulders. Protesters gathered outside City Hall, demanding justice for Brooks. Kane's burner phone buzzed again. A message. "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." Kane knew he couldn't back down. His instincts screamed that this case was bigger than just a political murder. The file he uncovered pointed to an underground network. Corruption, blackmail, organized crime. Brooks had been about to expose it all. He had become a target because of it. Then, the pieces clicked into place. The events of that night, a heated argument with Brooks, a struggle. But something didn't add up. The angle of the stab wound, the too large glove, the strange messages. Someone had framed him. The masked figure returned. Kane had been tracking them for days. The final confrontation came in an abandoned alley. The figure stepped from the shadows. When they removed the mask, Kane's stomach dropped. It was Laura, his own partner. Her smile was cold, twisted. "You were always the perfect detective," she sneered. "But you were too blind to see the truth right in front of you." Kane's heart raced. Laura had been working with Brooks to expose the corrupt network. And when Kane stumbled upon her betrayal, she framed him. She had set him up to take the fall and discredit the entire investigation. A fight ensued. Kane was driven by rage, by the desperate need for justice. His hands trembled, but his resolve was stronger. He twisted her wrist, forcing her to confess. "You're done," Kane growled, recording the admission on his phone. Sirens wailed in the distance. The evidence was undeniable. The corrupt network had been dismantled. Laura would pay for her crimes. But Kane's victory was hollow. His reputation was ruined. The city was free from the corruption, but Kane had paid a steep price. As the sun began to rise, Kane stood alone on a rooftop, staring out at the skyline. The weight of everything that had happened pressed on him. Would he ever truly be free? The city would move on, but Kane would never be the same. Was he truly innocent? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe. It's free, and you'll never miss a mystery. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.